Thank you. All right, everyone. Good evening to all of you present here, and thank you so much for taking the time out to join our session today, which is Hour of Code. So let's get started in the process of building a currency converter using the GUI library Tkinter in Python. So this is all that we're going to learn today. First, we'll understand our problem statement or what problem we have at hand. Then we'll move on to discuss a little bit about the technologies used, which is mainly Python and Tkinter here. Then our problem statement, that is the currency converter, we'll be solving it using two methods. So the first method has some problem and we'll be discussing what that problem is and how we can fix it. So to fix that, we require an API. So we'll be explaining to you all about an API, how to use it, and all the details required. So worry not, and let's get started. So first, let's look at the problem statement. What exactly are we going to accomplish today? Today, we're going to build a currency converter. So what is this currency converter? So a currency converter is a machine that takes in a form of currency of one type. So let's say it's Indian rupees. And then it converts it to another type of currency. You can say US dollar, Canadian dollar, or European euro, anything. So this is what a currency converter does. It takes in the currency of one type and it converts it to another type. Now this currency value, that is the numeric value of this currency, the type of currency from, and the type of currency to. All of these three parameters are given to us by the user. So if it's like, let's say 9 rupees and it's INR to USD, then all of these three things are given to us by the user. So what we have to do is we have to look at the logic of how we convert it from one currency to another. That is step number one. And step number two is that we have to build a GUI for the same so that it becomes easier for the user to convert from one currency to another. So like I mentioned before, we're going to accomplish this in two ways. So the first way is that we manually code the conversion. So we get online, we get conversion rates, right? So we take this conversion rate and we manually code the conversion. So that is step one. And sorry, that is method one. And method two is that we're going to use an API. So you may have questions like what is an API? Why do we need that? And things like that. But don't worry, all of that will be clear when we move on to step two. So now let's talk about the technologies that we're going to use. So what exactly are we going to use to build this? We're going to use Python. So you might have a lower version of Python installed in your system, and that's okay. But currently in my system, I have Python 3.10.1, and that's what I'm going to be using. And the main IDE that we're going to be using is PyCharm. We'll also be showing you how VS Code looks like and how to use it towards the end of the session. But mainly the code will be done using PyCharm. So if you have PyCharm installed already, I request all of you to open it and keep it ready so that we'll start coding in a few minutes. And then the GUI that we're going to use, that is Tkinter. So we're going to use Python's GUI library, that is Tkinter. So a little bit about Python to get you all started. What is Python exactly? So Python is an easy to use, object-oriented and high-level programming language. So it's an object-oriented language and it's very popular nowadays because the syntax is very easy to use. It almost resembles the English language. That is why most people use it. And this was developed by Guido van Rossum and it's an open source language. So what do I mean by this? What do I mean by the fact that it's an open source language? I mean that the Python libraries that are present, anyone in the world can contribute to that code and make it better. If you know a way how to contribute to a code, how to make or how to resolve the issues in that particular code, you can do so. It's open to everyone. So in most programming languages we see like C++, C and Java, we use curly braces to represent a block. But in Python, what we do is we use 4 spaces. So essentially, some people while coding, they use a tab to represent the indentation. And while the compiler accepts this, the most ideal or the most preferred way, or rather should I say a convention to indent a block of text in Python is to use 4 spaces. So that's about Python. Now let's talk about Tkinter. So Tkinter is basically a standard GUI library that's used by Python. So Python has a TK toolkit where it basically gives you lots of widgets like buttons, text boxes and things like that. So this Tkinter basically is like TK toolkit interface. That's the short form. So Tkinter. So it's Python's interface to the TK toolkit that is shipped along with Python. And it's always also available on various other platforms such as Linux, Unix, and it has cross-platform feature. This means that if you have maybe made a GUI on the Linux platform, you can very well use that same GUI on the Unix platform. So that's what it means by its cross-platform feature, and allows you to run the same code on various other platforms. So I'll be showing you how to install Tkinter and how to check the installation as well. But this is the command just for your reference. So if you want to try it right now, you can go ahead. But in a few minutes, I'll also be showing you how to do it. Now, why Tkinter? Tkinter, maybe many of you have heard the name Tkinter, especially when we had that discussion. A lot of you said that you've been trying to do some things in Tkinter, and definitely the name Tkinter might have been thrown around. And that's because it's easy to use. It's lightweight. It's easier to implement when compared to other GUI frameworks. So Python has a whole bunch of GUI frameworks, but this is very easy to implement. And it's beginner friendly. So that's why many people rather start their whole GUI journey with Tkinter. It has a wide variety of widgets. So it has many different widgets that make our GUI attractive and easily accessible as well as easy to use. So that's one reason why we use Tkinter. So one maybe rather disadvantage you can think of is that the UI won't look very modern. It won't be very eye-catchy or things like that. But the thing is, you can accomplish whatever you want. So here we want to build a currency converter. You can accomplish that within a few lines of code. And it looks neat and presentable enough for you to get around. Maybe it might not look like a flashy or a very, a very well-designed website or very well-designed GUI, but it looks good enough for you to get around. And that's our main purpose here. So these are the reasons why we're using Tkinter. Mainly that it's beginner friendly, has a lot of widgets, and it's quite lightweight as well. All right, so now that we've had an introduction to what problem we're going to solve, we know that we're going to solve it in two methods. We've understood, or we got a basic overview of what Tkinter is and what Python is. Let's move on to the code. So I'll unshare and reshare my screen. Any doubts so far? You can feel free to unmute, or you can even put it in the chat if you have any doubts so far. All right, I'll just be resharing my screen. And do you all have Python open? Maybe you can reply with a thumbs up in the chat. Or do you want me to wait for a few minutes? Okay, I see a few thumbs ups here and there. Everyone else? Is there anyone who wants me to wait for them to open and keep the ID ready? I don't mind that. Okay, I guess everyone has it open, and let's get started. So this is how your PyCharm looks like. So the first things first, we need a place to code, right? So we'll start by creating a project. So it's great if for every different program that you do, you create a different project. Maybe under one project, you will have many different files. So it'll be better organized if you create a project first. So you can do this by creating new project. And you might have to just wait for a bit. Yes. So when you create a new project, you'll get a location here. So this is essentially the name of your project. You can change this. And if you are not okay with this location, you can change the location as well. And then make sure you have a virtual environment. So this virtual environment basically acts as your interpreter and compiler. That's what will compile and give you the result. So this base interpreter or whatever you will get is the version of Python that you have installed on your system. So we already mentioned in our installation guide that if you go to your command prompt and type Python -- version, you'll get to know which version it is. So whatever version that you have installed, or maybe you have multiple versions installed, so you can click on the preferred version that you want to work on here. And again, the location, once you change it here, it'll automatically get changed here as well. So that's all you need to do, and you can click on create. So I'm not doing that because I already have a project open. While the ones who don't have a project open, these are a few simple steps you can follow to create your own project. Now, once you have a project created, you'll perhaps have a folder like this. So you can right click there, click on new, and click on a Python file and maybe give it a name. So right now it's HOC. So I'm going to give the file name as HOC. So there, I have my new file called HOC here. So you can follow these steps and you have created a project as well as a new file. So anyone has any doubts so far? Anywhere you're stuck here in creating a project and opening a new file? Okay, hopefully you've done all that. Now, so this is first the thing we're going to build. This is the one where we're going to manually code whatever conversion that we're doing, right? So the first thing we need is to install Tkinter. So if you are using PyCharm, click on terminal here, open your terminal, and then all you have to do is pip install Tkinter. This is all that you have to type and click on enter. So for me, it will already say requirement satisfied because I already have Tkinter installed. But you can try it for yourselves as well. I'm sorry. It's not pip install Tkinter, it's pip install tk. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. It's pip install tk. So all you have to do is type pip install tk. And once you type pip install tk, you'll have a bunch of processes that's happening where Tkinter is basically being installed for you. So once it's installed, you can test the working of Tkinter. So to do that, all you have to do is do so you have to do Python m Tkinter. One second. Yeah, so it's Python -m and Tkinter, and this is what should come. You can, okay, I don't think you can see this window. Sorry, just a second. Okay, I'll show that again. So when you type, is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Okay, so once you do pip install Tkinter, right? Sorry, pip install tk, then you just have to type Python -m and Tkinter, and this kind of a window will pop up. So when this window pops up, you know that Tkinter has already been installed for you. Has this worked for everyone? If you could like maybe react with a thumbs up. Or for whoever it's worked so far, could you raise your hand so that I have a better count? If it's worked for you, please raise your hand.
How to install it in VS Code?
In VS Code as well, you just have to type the whole pip install tk.
Yeah, it got that successfully installed TK 0.1.0.
Oh, that's cool.
But
Then that means tk is installed for you.
But after typing the next command, it's showing that no module named Tkinter.
This is not showing for you? This one?
Yeah, that's not showing for me.
Oh, okay. Could you try it in PyCharm maybe if you have PyCharm?
No, not.
Okay.
But it has shown that successfully installed TK 0.1.0.
Okay,
When
maybe
I type the
it's
first command.
all right. Okay, maybe this command perhaps doesn't work. If while we're making the GUI, if there's something that doesn't work, you can speak up again. Okay.
Lakshman.
Yeah.
Maybe you'd like to share your screen.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Give me the access to share my screen.
Yeah. 1 second. If you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you're a presenter now. You can share your screen.
The others, could you please raise your hand if you've installed TK and it works?
Could you scroll up in your terminal?
What?
Could you scroll up in your terminal? Oh, Lakshman, it's Python -m and just Tkinter, no hyphen again. You added an extra hyphen.
I gave an hyphen only once. Yeah, we'll do again. Python and then hyphen.
No hyphen.
No, not
For
hyphen.
Tkinter, no hyphen.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, Shreya and Madhav, any problems? Or you
No. I asked the people who've gotten it so far to raise their hands. What about the rest? Only Shreya and Madhav got it. The others, do you need any help?
Actually, I have recently installed VS Code and I am not able to use pip install TK.
Pip
It's
install TK. Would you like to share your screen?
yes, ma'am. 1 second.
Sure, sure.
I'm not present there actually.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah.
So I need to type here, right?
Yes. So type pip install TK. Yeah. Oh, you don't have pip installed. Okay.
Have you installed Python? Could you go to your
Actually, I have installed Python.
Could you go to your command prompt one?
or you can try from here itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, type CMD and hit enter. Then type out Python space _ version.
Then space, no space, right?
No space. Yeah, you don't have Python installed.
Actually, I have ideal. Ideally, I'm using this one.
Maybe I think there's something missing. Maybe you might have deleted something by accident. Because this command is supposed to verify the installation of Python in your system.
Actually, I am using Python from a long time. Like I am able to run programs, but maybe I have not added the path, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Could you
I think.
try installing it again, like from the instructions that we gave?
Yeah.
I could
I
send
will do
the
it.
document here if
No,
you.
I have it. I have it.
Okay,
I will
okay,
do
yeah,
it. Okay.
cool.
All right.
Just
Yeah, please carry on.
Just try it again and let us know maybe in the chat.
correct, yeah.
The others, Arnav, Nitin, Shruti, Lakshman. Lakshman sir, you got it now, right?
Yeah, I got.
Okay. So there are 3 people who are raising their hands. The others, if you have any problems, don't hesitate in asking.
Yeah. I guess we can move on.
All right, we can move on then. Yeah, I'll share my screen. All right, so now that we installed Tkinter so far, and we've also checked and verified the installation of Tkinter. So this window, I guess, popped up for everyone. You can close it now. Now, the next step is, so the thing in Python is that once you install a package, if you want to use it in a particular program, you will have to import it. So let's import Tkinter as TK. So you can type this out in your new file, maybe import Tkinter as TK. And then later on, when we're coding out the GUI, right, we'll be using something known as a combo box. So for that, we need something called TTK. So let's just take that as well. So essentially, you can just do, since you've already imported Tkinter, when you're using that, you can just say tk.ttk. But just to, make the write of code easier, we've imported it again. So now you have these imports in place, right? It will be grayed out. Why? Because you haven't really used anything for this yet. Now, let's move on to the logic of our code. That's what we're going to think about first, the logic of our code. The logic of our code is that we get a currency in one particular type and we have to convert it to another type, right? So for that, first, this is a dictionary. Let's define the conversion rates. So for this particular manual coding, we're only going to use conversion of INR to USD and vice versa, that is USD to INR. All right. So the conversion rate, that is 1 USD, is 74.77 rupees. Okay. So you can type this out as a dictionary. So we'll be using, this is the key and this is the value. So this is basically a dictionary in Python. And you can type out your conversion rates in this format. So you can type out a conversion rate in this format. And if you ever want to access 74.77, you just say conv rates, which is the name of your variable, and you put this in brackets. Okay, Okay, so you can define these three things. So what have you done here? You've imported Tkinter, and from Tkinter you've imported a specific library. This is optional. If later on you just write tk.ttk, you'll get it. But for ease, we just import this as well. And in a dictionary, we've stored the conversion rate from a USD to INR. So I'll just paste these three lines in the chat, and you guys can copy it into your new file. All right. Now we'll discuss basically the crux or the logic of our program, which is the conversion. So we define a separate function for that. And this is how we define a function, right? So we say def, and the name of the function is money underscore conv, conv. And then we pass in three arguments. So these are arguments. And the first one is m, or this represents the numeric value of the money. So it could be 10 rupees, 11 rupees, 9 rupees, whatever. And this is from currency, as in the initially what currency is it. And this is to currency, as in which currency do you want to convert it to. All right. So this is a very, very simple logic. So we'll define our, so this was what was given there. So you can just paste this, and then we'll define our function. So def money conf, and we taken three arguments. So m from currency, right? And to currency. And then we end it with a colon, and we go to the next. Now we have some currency with us, and we want to convert it from one type to another, right? So what we do, so we have to check which type to which type do we want to convert it to. So if from currency is INR and to currency is USD, then we do money divided by the conversion rate. So why is this? This is simple unitary method. 1 USD is 74.77 rupees. So if you want to convert some X INR to USD, then we do that given amount divided by 74.77. So that is all that we're coding here. So that is if your from currency is equal to INR and your to currency is equal to USD, then what do? You return this value. So this value will be later on displayed in your GUI, right? You're returning this value from a function. So you return, the given money that you have, that is M, divided by, you have to use the conversion rate, that is 74.77. And like I said, this is stored in a dictionary. So how do you access this 74.77 from a dictionary? You just say conv rates underscore, in brackets you say USD INR. That's all. That's all you have to do. So this will help, this code, these two lines of code will help you convert a given currency in INR to USD, and it will return that particular value. Now, what if you want to do the reverse? You want to convert, let's say USD to INR. Can maybe anyone help me with that? It's okay if you're wrong, you can just give it a try.
Else if?
Yes. So else if in Python is called elif. Yeah.
Elif from currency double equal to USD and
Okay.
to currency double equals to INR. Return M into.
Perfect.
I didn't understand that why you put in that square bracket USD underscore INR.
Oh, okay.
Last.
So let me just comment all this for now. I'll just show you that. So basically this, right, this is a dictionary. Okay, in Python, this is called a dictionary. Now for me to...
Okay, I got it.
Sorry?
I got it.
You got it?
I got it.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll just print it anyway. So if you print, so in a dictionary, you basically have a key and a value pair. So if I want to add more elements, let's say I have apple and 0, I can add it this way. Now I want to find what value is associated with USD INR. So all I have to do is go to conv rates, and I want to understand what value is associated with USD INR. So I just print it in this manner. So So in my answer, I get 74.77, which is the answer here. So that's why I'm using it there. I basically want to access this 74.77. All right. So Lakshman Sai gave the right answer. This is exactly how you do ELIF. So when you want to convert from USD to INR, again by unitary method, you'll have to multiply it, not divide again. So you multiply the same value with the given conversion rates. Now we have an else. So the other possible option is that maybe due to an error in clicking, the person has clicked INR as from currency and INR is to currency as well. Or maybe they've clicked on USD as from currency and USD as to currency as well. In that case, what do you do? What will you return? If like the from currency and to currency are exactly the same, like maybe it's INR or USD, what do you think you'll return?
Input is invalid. Please try again.
You can put it as invalid. Sorry, someone else was saying something.
You can just return M.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're doing here. So you can just return M. Because if from currency and to currency are the same, maybe instead of giving an error message, we can just return the same value. That means to say that no conversion exactly has happened here. So I'll just send this function as well in the chat for you all. Hope you understood the logic. If you have any doubts, you may ask.
Also, I just wanted to point out, Lakshman, what you said is also valid. It depends on the person who's making the program. If you want them to choose only different from rates and to rates, you can say, yeah, it's invalid. You've chosen both same. Please choose a different one. Or you could do this. Anything is fine. It's just we decided to do it this way.
All right. So from here, we'll be moving on to how to code. Now we have the main logic in place. Now all we need is to code the Tkinter, right? So this will be taken over by Sunil and he'll be sharing his screen. In the meantime, if anyone has any doubts, or could you maybe again, let's do the whole, if you were able to code out the conversion function successfully, please raise your hands. All right, Madhav Ram was able to.
Yeah, I have a doubt.
Yeah, sure.
At the start, why we should not import the module as like from Tkinter import star instead of that first two lines.
Yeah, you can definitely do that as well. That is another method. That is absolutely correct. So if you've done that, you can go ahead with that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and if you do that, it's you'll have to access it differently. If you do from tkinter.star, whatever you're accessing through tk, you'll have to do tkinter dot. And another thing is, the main reason people use this as keyword is because for some libraries, the names are really long. So you're just kind of making an alias. So whenever you say tk, Python understands as tkinter. So that's why we use as. But what you said is absolutely correct, like Sneha mentioned. So. Okay, so up till now, we've seen the function, the main logic behind our program, which is converting from a given currency rate to a desired currency rate. Now that we have this, we need to give this function some place to run, some screen. And that's the GUI, that's the whole focus of today's event. So let's get started with that. So I'll be showing you step by step what each line does and what's the importance of each line. So we get started with these few lines here. First of all, with Tkinter, you have to do, how many of you know OOPS concepts here? Have you been taught it? Okay, others, do you know? Okay, a lot of people. The rest of you? Okay, cool. If you have any doubt, you can stop any of us and ask. So basically with any, and this goes for any library in Python, you can treat it as an class, right? So if you take tk as a class, or you can, think of tk as a file. So if you look at tkinter, you can't see the .py file here, but you can access the source code online, which is because Python, like Sneha mentioned, is open source. So this tk file or this tkinter file has a class in it called capital Tk, right? So what you're doing here is you're initializing an instance of the object of the class tk and calling the object top. So this is basically our Tkinter object. Once you write this line, you can access all of Tkinter's attributes and classes and use it to do what you want. Next thing is this class is an attribute called geometry, which sets the size of the window. So right now we're setting it to 400 cross 400, and then you're giving the title currency converter. Up till now, this is the standard stuff. Now it gets interesting. So like any GUI you see or any website you go to, any mobile app you use, has a lot of different widgets, search box, drop down, buttons, nav bars, and many other things. So we need to create those, tell Python that we're going to be using these and particular widgets, and then accordingly place them in the window so we can see them and the users can interact. That's what we're doing here. This is our first widget we're creating, and it's a label. Label basically means text. It's just a text that will appear, and we're going to use this as the text that will be appearing in the middle of the GUI window, and that's done with this line. Then you can even set the font and the size and if it's italic, styled, bolded, or underlined with this configuration option. So now we've done this much. So let's see what it looks like in the actual GUI window. Okay, that's interesting. It hasn't popped. It hasn't shown anything. The reason because, and maybe when you're first starting out, you might forget this, is we have to add another line, which is this. Main loop basically tells Python that whatever code you're accessing through the Tkinter library, keep running it in a forever loop, and that is what will let the GUI window appear. So now if I run this, you can see here the GUI window is open. You have the title, currency converter, and I don't know about you, but I don't think this is a 400 cross 400 size window. Can anyone tell me why it's so big? This is the code I've used. Can anyone figure out why it's so big when I've only written 400 cross 400? Again, it's okay if you're wrong. We just want to see what you think or how much you've understood.
I think you didn't mention the units like pixels or anything.
Okay. No, that's a good thought, but it's default in Tkinter. It's default pixels. Just all of these lines, just take a close look. Anyone?
Is it because the geometry is in quotes?
No. You're supposed to pass in a string, but again, good try. The reason is we have this extra line here that says zoomed, so that makes it full screen. If I remove that and run this again, you can see now this is probably a much more fitting size for 400 cross 400. Thank you to both of you who responded. Again, it doesn't matter if you're correct or not. The fact that you tried and thought itself is a good thing. So the reason we're using zoomed is because the way we wanted to set and place the widgets you'll see soon, this was the best fitting. So we went with zoomed. So now one more thing is we set here that there should be a text label, but that isn't here. That's because we have to place it. So in Tkinter, placing is the secondary step after actually telling the Tkinter program that you're going to be having this particular widget. So this line tells us that we'll be using text. This line tells us that we're going to be having the text in Times New Roman, size 20 and bold. Then this line which says title.place will tell us that, okay, place this whatever a widget, in this case a text label, in this position and in this justification. So rel x and rel y basically mean relative position with respect to the whole screen, right? So rel y means from the top, place it in a 0.1 percentage from the top, and a 0.5 basically means half. So that would put it right in the center. So now if we run this, you can see that we have the text label currency converter, right? So Next, we'll be looking at, excuse me. So now we need to tell the people where to enter the from currency and to currency. And that will be done using these 6 lines. Again, don't worry, I'll explain what each of them is. So first we create something called a string variable. A string variable is something you can link to another widget that will, and whatever input is done in that widget will be captured in the string variable. So first we create another text label called from currency label, and the text basically it'll appear as from currency. Then we'll have another input box. So this is just a normal static text like we saw with currency converter. Then we have an entry widget, which is basically an input widget where anyone can type in what they want. So here you can see that there's this extra parameter called text variable, to which we're passing in the value of this string variable. So again, a string variable basically it's a type or a attribute. You can think of it as a new data type introduced by Tkinter, that once you declare it, you can pass this variable to any other widget, and that means both those two are linked. So whatever value people type in this entry box, that will be captured into this variable. Can anyone tell me why this would be useful or where we'd use this? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So I think Sneha sent the code that I've talked about till now. So you can try this and stop any of us at any time to let us know if you're facing a problem. So the reason we're using this is because here you can see that we have a parameter from currency and to currency. So we need to get the value. So we'll show this later on how we actually pass it, but that's the purpose of this string variable, to capture whatever value that the user is typing into the from currency input box and pass it to our other rest of the function. And the similar thing goes for the to currency. We're making a text label to show that, okay, in this entry box, you type in to currency, and we have another input box. But the thing is, this input box, you can't actually enter anything because this is to display the answer. So once again, we'll place what we've created. So now you can see we have a from currency and you can type whatever value you want here. And we have a to currency. And again, as I said, you can't enter anything in this box. This is just to show the value, the converted value. So now we have the from currency, the to currency, the text labels for them, and the entry boxes. Can anyone tell me what else we might need? Not just for this particular GUI application, but in general, if you ever use the currency converter. Yeah.
Conversion.
Could you repeat?
A button to convert, like press that button, then it will.
Yeah, correct. Okay, we need a button to convert, and that's here. Yeah, we'll come to that. And apart from that, anything else? Good job, Kushal. We need that as well. Perfectly right. We need one other missing component. Can anyone think of what it is? Okay, before we move on, I'll give you this code, this whole code. You can try it and tell us if it's working or not. You can raise your hand once you've tried it.
Mentioning whether it's USD or INR.
Yeah, that's correct. Correct. We need some sort of way to let them choose which one we want to convert from and convert to. Correct. That's right, Shreya. So I pasted the code in the chat. Maybe you can run this and see if it works. Just for reference, this is what it should look like. So, or if you could try it, and once it works for you, can let us know and we can move on. Did any of you try the code? And if so, did it work?
Okay, maybe raise your hand to let us know if it worked for you. Or if you have any doubts, you can ask. Like maybe you probably didn't understand a command or you didn't understand why that part of the code was there. So you can raise your hand and Sunil will explain it again.
Yeah, okay, Shreya got it. Okay, others?
I didn't quite understand how how this text is being passed into our function.
Yeah, that's yet to come. Maybe you can let us know if you understood later on in the chat when it comes to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Lakshman also got it. Okay, maybe I'll wait for another minute before moving on.
But the two currency block is disabled for me.
Which one?
Two currency. Ah, okay. For you also the same.
The two currencies what?
Yeah, it will be visible but not editable. The from currency you can type, but the to currency you can't type anything in.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, just to add on, Sunil, maybe if you can go to the code once more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you see in in to currency, right? Line 26, you can see the state as read only. Why? Because we don't want people to edit the to currency. The to currency is where your answer is displayed. But there's no such, there's no such state as read only in from currency. So since it's given as read only, that's why it's coming as grayed out box. So it's not editable.
Yep, correct. That's right. Okay, so I think I can move on. So like Shreya said, we need to let them choose what to and from currencies they want. And this is where we'll use the other import statement, TTK. So there's this widget known as combo box, which is basically a drop-down widget, and you can select certain options according to whatever you pass in. There are other analogous or similar widgets in Tkinter, but they're not as flexible with the parameters or as well designed. So we decided to go with this. So here we need to pass in a list for the combo box, and this list is basically the option that will appear. So we're passing in INR and USD because that's the only two options we're giving right now. And again, these two are read-only, just like the previous two currency entry box, because we don't want them to edit the options, otherwise our program wouldn't work. Then these two lines basically will tell Python or tell Tkinter that for each of the drop-down boxes already have one selected by default. So you'll see that when I run the code, how this affects the display of the combo drop-downs. So this is it for creating them. Now we'll actually place them and you can see them appear on the GUI window. Yeah, as you can see, you have the two drop-down boxes here, and they have options INR and USD. And because I set them to 0 and 1, the current option, that's why they are INR and USD. If I had, say, set both of them to 1, then USD would appear. So that's how you can set the default function for them. So yeah. So before we move on, the next part is only using the button like one of our participants said, and getting the text as one of our other participants asked a question. Before that, this is the code for adding the combo box. So I'll pass this on as well. And you can again try, and I'll wait for a couple of seconds before moving on. Yeah. Okay, so the last thing we need for the GUI is the button. And this is where this links to the other question, that how do we get the text that the person entered? And this button has an extra parameter or argument called command. And basically you can pass in a Python function here that tells the Tkinter program that when this button is clicked, activate this function. And what this function is and what its uses are and how we get the text from it will be taken over by Sneha. So.
Sure, thank you. I'll just share my screen again.
Yeah.
So before that, were you all able to get the combo boxes so far? Anyone has any doubts? It could be with respect to anything. It could be with respect to a command that we used. It could be with respect to why so and so, or it could be with respect to, like, there are so many arguments in each of these functions, right? So it could be with respect to what these arguments are and why they're there. Anything? Any doubts? All right. Okay. So, like I was mentioned before, now the final thing we have is just the button. So far we have basically two text boxes. So one that's editable, one that's not editable. So the one that's editable is the from currency, where you can type in your actual value. One that's not editable is the to currency, where you'll get the final result. And you have two combo boxes. So the two combo boxes, and the reason for two combo boxes is that the first one will imply the from currency and the second one will imply the to currency. Now that we have all that in motion, let's look at the button. So this will basically, this code, that is conv button, will put it on top, and it will have, like Sunil mentioned, it will be called convert. So the name of the button in the GUI will be called convert, and its command is the Python function called convert. And this is the font and everything that's given there. So once you have this line of code in place with your other, you can maybe, I'll just maybe send this over, just this one. So after you have that, just the convert button, you have to also place the convert button again. Like Sunil mentioned, this is the X, Y, and the place where it's positioned. So that is anchor, center, and all right. So that's all about how you get the GUI. So your final GUI will now look in this way. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it will look like this. So there will be the extra convert button that's placed over here. So you have the currency converter title, from currency to currency, and you'll have all of this. All right. So this is what it will look like. Now, what you need to do is, now we have all our GUI in position. Everything is there for us to use. The final thing we need to do is configure a function that will help us. So that's why we have this convert function. Let's move on to the convert function. This is the convert function. Now, like I think Madhav asked us, how do we get the text, right? So this button, like I mentioned, calls the convert function. So when you come here, M, it takes in the value M, and that is from underscore cur underscore txt. So this is the string variable. So let me just run it again. So whatever you enter here, that gets stored. Suppose I enter 9 here. So that is what gets stored in this M. So it basically converts it to an integer and gets you the from whatever was placed in this text box. So this text box is called from underscore cur underscore txt dot get. So the dot get is basically used to get the value from that particular text box. Now from cur. So what is this from cur? From cur will be the type of currency that this number is initially in. So that we get it from drop dot get. So from drop, what is from drop? From drop is the combo box. So this combo box, whatever you enter here, that is from drop. So you need to get this text also, right, for it to pass to this function. So you get that text over here. So you get from drop from there, right? You get the text from there. Again, to cur, you get it from to drop. So this is to drop. So this to drop and from drop, that's basically the name of the combo box that we've given in the code. So this is from drop and this is to drop. So from the from drop, we get the text, and from to drop also we get the text. And sorry, that is placed over here. So from drop and to drop, we get the text in this manner. Now we have to basically convert the money, right? Convert from one currency to another, right? So what we have to do for that, in the very beginning, we wrote this function. Now is where we're going to use this function. So money conv, and then we're going to send M. So that is the money value, from cur, that is the currency type it's initially in, and to cur, that is the currency type you want to convert it to. So these three lines were basically used to get the text from the various widgets that were there in the GUI. So here you got it from this text box. Here you got it from this drop down and this drop down as well. So you have that, and then you're passing it to your money conversion function to convert it from one currency to another. Finally, this to underscore cur underscore txt. What is that to underscore cur underscore txt? Well, that is your read only label. That is this label. So here is where you want your answer to be printed, right? So that is this label. And you passed your three values, that is the money, from currency, and to currency, to this function, and you got back an answer and you stored it in this conv m variable. So what you're doing, you're saying set, that is set meaning, so get was to obtain a value, set is to set a value or to display a value. And you're rounding it to 2 because otherwise there'll be too many numbers after the decimal place, and you're basically displaying your value. So let's give this a try now. All right. Now let's say I type in 9, and let's say I have this only INR to USD, and I click on convert. So it's giving you an answer here finally. So rupees 9 has been converted to USD, and it's 0.12 USD. So if you actually go ahead and check it, this will be the answer because we've used the conversion rates that were found online. You'll understand that this is exactly what was used there. So I'll finally send this convert function. So this convert function is what is being called from the button. So there you go. So hopefully you understood the convert function. Now I'll pause here for a minute. So we're done with one set or one method of our currency converter. We've been able to successfully build this currency converter that only helps you to convert from INR to USD, or alternatively from USD to INR as well. You can just convert that and you get a different conversion rate. So maybe all of you can type in the existing code you have and let us know, maybe by raising your hands. I'll stop sharing my screen for a few minutes.
I had a question. In your
Sure.
code, in the convert function, in the last line, the to currency text, we
Yeah.
set a variable, a rounded variable, right? Like the
Yeah.
convm. What is the convm again?
Oh, okay. So what you're doing is, you understood these 3 lines?
Yeah.
Okay, now what you're doing is, you remember this
Oh,
function,
we're
right?
saving the answer of the. Okay, I get it. I
Yes,
get
you're
it
just
now.
saving the
Yeah,
answer here and you
yeah,
display that.
yeah. Thank you.
No problem. Anyone else has any other doubts? Or if you maybe got the result, would you like to raise your hand? Or you could even share your screen and show us what answer you got. So I'll maybe wait, I'll pause here for a couple minutes. Anyone got it?
Yeah, it works for me.
Oh, it works for you. That's amazing. Anyone else?
Can you show your whole code? Because I'm not getting the answer. I'm not getting the boxes.
All right. Sure. I'll just reshare the whole thing. Maybe you could share your screen so we could see if you've made an error somewhere.
Okay, yeah. Could you make me the presenter?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You can share your screen, Shreya. Yeah, what is happening?
I'll just run the code. I'm not getting the USD INR boxes.
I'm not able to see. I don't think you shared your whole screen.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Lakshman, what?
I'm getting this.
At the same.
Maybe you haven't placed the combo boxes. Do check if you've placed it.
This one, right?
Shreya, you're running the main file. Could you right click here?
Oh, right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can right click on this file. The
Yeah,
one
right click here. Yeah, and then
Yeah,
run.
and
Okay, thank you.
No.
Yeah.
Lakshman, you said you're facing the same thing.
How didn't make two files? I have just copied it in the same file.
Maybe you
why
could
my-
also share your screen.
I'll just make you presenter. Yeah, you can share screen.
Is it visible?
Yeah, we can see the Google page. I don't think we can see anything else.
Google page.
Yeah, I think you could maybe share your entire screen. We can only see your Google Chrome tab.
Now?
Yeah.
Is it visible?
Yeah.
Could you run the file? Okay, maybe show the code once again. Yeah, scroll down. A little more down.
Okay, could you try copying the entire code that we sent again? Maybe does it work with that?
Okay.
Oh, okay. I think I got it. It's because oh, okay. 1 second. Can you scroll down a little?
I think the main loop is like,
Yeah, main loop is on top.
yeah, it's on top.
So the top state, top dot state, and top dot main loop, put it to the very bottom. That's a very good catch, Madhav.
Which one?
Lines 34 and 36. Yeah. Put it at the very bottom. Because so like Sunil mentioned, main loop is something that will help this run forever. So only a few of your widgets are running forever, while the others are not. So you want them all to run forever. So these two statements, you have to always put it at the very bottom of your code. Now run it.
Tkinter is not opening ideally.
Is there some error that's coming in your terminal? Sorry. Okay. Oh, okay. So your def convert, right? It should be on top. So can you put your def convert at the very top? The whole function. No, including the two underscore cur underscore txt dot set. Yeah. Take the whole thing. Yeah. Cut that and scroll to the very top. Maybe right below the. Yeah. So there was one function, right? Return m. That is the money convert function. Maybe below that you put this. Yeah. Yeah. Now try.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
No problem. So you can maybe try it out. Okay, we'll move on. Now, so Sunil will explain the problems that we have with the existing method, and we'll quickly go over the API method as well. This may extend for maybe up till 6:30, so hopefully you can stay till then. We're very sorry.
Yeah, we apologize for the delay, but we'll try to wrap this up as soon as possible. So now we've seen one way of doing this, the whole currency converter logic. But what's wrong with what we've got? Why can't we just do this for the other currencies we have, like Chinese yuan and stuff like that? The thing is, this current method only allows for currency conversion between INR and USD. Only those two, nothing else. And what if we wanted to add another currency? It turns out we'd have to care for 9 conditions instead of 4. And the math works out to about n square conditions for n number of currencies. And there's around 180 currencies in the whole world. There's no way we could code for all of them. It would be a hassle and way too much time. But online currency converters do exist. And I'm sure they haven't spent this much time writing 180 square conditions. So how do they do it? There's got to be a way. When there's an API, there's a way. What are APIs and how can they help? Simply put, you can think of APIs as a bridge or as a mediator between your application and another third-party entity. If you think of the example of a restaurant, you as the customer or consumer, you call the waiter, tell the waiter what you want, and sometime later, maybe 15 minutes, 30 minutes later, the waiter comes out with what you asked for. You don't know what the waiter did. You don't know where he went. All you know is that he's going to get you your food, which is why you called him. An API works in a similar fashion in the sense that you ask the API something and the API gets it back to you, no questions asked, and you don't need to know what happens behind because that's not your purpose. Your purpose is to get what you asked for, and you got it. So API is normally a piece of code written to serve as helper functions. You can think of them as like how we've written the code so far. You can think of them as little functions, like maybe the money convert function or the conv function we've written. You can think of APIs just like that. And in a more larger scale, maybe when you think of a website or other applications like that, like a mobile application, These APIs usually allow interaction with the database, where all the information about a particular app or any other software is stored. And these follow something known as a request response cycle. So like I said, you ask for something and you get it back. Now there are different ways to ask for something. There are different outputs when you ask in a certain way. So again, with the example of the waiter, when you ask for food, he goes and gets it for you. But when you ask for the bill, you're giving him something. He's not giving anything you. He's not giving anything back to you. Sorry. So in this method, in this light, there are 4 methods that you can ask or request for. There are get, put, post, and delete. Get is what I referred to in the first example, where you ask something and you get something back. Put is with respect to asking for the bill and paying. There, the waiter isn't giving you anything, you're giving the waiter something. This could be like entering a new information or entering the details of a new student, something like that. Post can be thought of as updating existing information. So you ask, okay, this is my ID, like the student registration number. I want to update this particular detail about the student, maybe address, they change location. So you tell the API, this is the student ID, this is the new address, go update it, and it will do that for you. And delete, as you may have guessed from the name, it will delete an existing piece of information. Again, when you give it something to identify the information with. So you say, okay, maybe student A has left the school and this is his registration number. Please go remove this from the database, and it will do that for you. So if you think about get, since it's giving you back information, you know if it works or not. You can ask for it, and if it's the information you wanted, you know it works. What about others? What about put, post, and delete? To know about the success of your request, there are something known as status codes. So some of the most common ones, or maybe you've seen some of these status codes as well. I think if you've ever tried logging onto AUMS in a very exam heavy time, you'll see something known as 502 or 404. That means there's something wrong on their end and they can't give you the resources you're asking for, which is the whole website, the AUMS page. They can't serve it to you. They can't get it to you to display. So they say 404 or 502, which are both error codes or codes that indicate something's wrong. So 200 and 202, those both indicate that your get and put request went right. And there are many other status codes you can refer to from the internet, but these are just the basic ones. We move on. Is there any doubt about what an API is or how it functions?
These APIs are more often used in logging base, right? Like Google API, Facebook API. It's like a mediator between the user and the server.
Yeah, true. Yes, there are Facebook APIs. There are Twitter APIs also. If you want to get all the tweets under one hashtag, or if you want to get all the search results under one keyword, you can use Google's API, correct? But it's not only for login. Even when you go to Amazon and type in anything in the search bar, how you get your results back, all those pages and pages of results, those are all delivered by an API too. But yes, correct. Facebook API and Google API, they do the
In
job.
the weather applications also, like
Yes, weather APIs, yes. There are many public weather APIs. You can pass in a different number of parameters for different information. You can pass in the city or the day and it will give you back the required details. Correct. So any other doubt? Okay, I think we'll move on. So now I've told you the basics of what an API is and how it works. You can think of it in another way. I'm sure maybe you've tried this when you were kids. You take 2 cans and you put a string to them and you can hear what the other person is saying. An API is something similar. Your application and the third party entity sitting, both of them have cans and a string in the middle. The application says something, the part entity hears it and gives it back, and the application again hears what it has to send back. And that's how the communication happens, and that's the whole point of APIs. So yes, this is the whole concept or base concept of what we need right now, at least, of an API. You can always feel free to explore more and get back to any of us if you have any doubts. So before we move on to the code to show you how we can use an API, does anybody have an idea of what we're going to be doing?
Yeah, instead of using the dictionary to store our values, we'll just pull the values from the API, so we don't have to type in each and every case.
Perfectly
and
right.
conversion.
Yes. Correct. Yes, that's true. Like I said, there's 180 currencies. We can't obviously code for all of them. So as Neha will show you now, there are public APIs available to help us do this. Neha.
I'll share my screen right now. All right. So is my screen visible?
Yeah.
All right. So one thing that's maybe a good news is that this is all that you have to change. So if you look back here, our money con function used to look like this. We hard coded everything. So we hard coded these conversion rates and we had this as well. So that's how it used to look like. But now we're pulling it from an API. So this is again not much change in the code. There are only like 5 lines of code. But yeah, this is all you need to get your data from an API. So let's first, the API today that we're using is this thing called exchange rates. So this is what you have to do first. I'll send this link in the chat. So go to this website, click on that, and you will be taken to this. This is what your screen will look like. So let me know if you guys are here. What you have to do is click on Get API Key. So now I already have an API key, so I will not do that. So all you have to do is get API key. So once you do this, it will ask you to sign in with your email. So sign in with your preferred email. And after that, there will be a few steps. So you'll have to maybe give in your name, your full name, maybe an address. You don't have to type in your full address. You can just type maybe the name of your street. You'll have to, there are a few, just maybe a few mandatory details to fill. So take a few minutes and fill that detail. So I'll just be signing in because I already have my key. So let me know once you reach this screen. So click on the website that's given there and sign in with your email, and you may have a few, like just a few steps, like a few questions that's asked, like your full name, maybe your address, your city. You can just quickly type that in, and then you don't just type the ones that are mandatory. The ones that are not mandatory, you can skip it. So ones that are mandatory, above the box there'll be a like a red asterisk. So once you're done and once you're here, do let me know. Maybe you can raise your hand once you're done. Okay, Shreya's done. That's wonderful. I'll wait for maybe 2 more minutes. Again, really sorry for extending the session. We just want to explain everything to you properly and not rush anything, so you have all of that in your head. We'll try to wrap it up as soon as possible. So apart from Shreya, anyone else? Are you guys facing any problems? Okay, Madhav, good job. What about the others? Any issues? Okay, Sai Shruti, nice. All right then, so I will be moving on. So now I'm assuming you guys are on this screen, right? Where you filled in all your details and you've pressed enter and now you're directed to this screen. So what you have to do is that you have to type in the URL, right? So take this variable. So save a variable called API URL and you put an R so that it's basically a link. And then you take that and copy. So I'm sending it to you till here. So this is the URL and it says access underscore key equal to. So until there, I'll send it to you. After this code that access underscore key equal to, put in your own access key. So this was my access key. So I had to paste it there. So type in your own access key. So I'll just send that to you this much. So after this, whatever access key you got, type that in. after the equal to, my access key was this, so I just have to copy paste it there. So just do the same thing and copy paste your access key over here and close the quotes. So that's about the API. Now you have presented a URL for you to access the API, and you have your very own access key because you logged in with your email ID. All right, I'll move on. So now that you have this API URL with you, right, and you have your own key, so you have the URL ready. What you need to do, as Sunil mentioned, is that you need to request that API for some data. So here you want the conversion rates. So before we proceed ahead with this, we need to do something called request. So we need, basically this request is what will help you call the API, that is the URL, and get whatever details you want. So for you to use this request, you'll have to say pip install requests. Type this in your command line. So for me, it says requirement already satisfied because I already have requests. So type pip install request and import requests here as well. So once you install requests and import it, what you will do is that you'll use this request package and you'll say .get and you'll put the variable that has the URL or that has the URL of the API. So what this will do, this will basically call the API and it will get the data. It will fetch the data that you're requesting for. And this .json basically helps you see everything in a JSON format. So in a JSON format, it will look something like this. It's like a key and a value type thing. So you'll get it in a JSON format so that it'll be easier for you to read it. So let me actually just print this and show it to you how it looks like. So far what we installed requests, we've imported requests, we've gone ahead to Exchange Rates API and we've signed in, logged in, and we've gotten our very own access key. So this access key, we've attached it to the given URL, and using requests, we've gotten or fetched the results, that is the conversion rates in the JSON format. So let me show you how this is. Sorry, I'm running the wrong one. All right, so let me just do this again. INR USD, I'll just convert it. Okay, I just did that for you to see what is there in the result. So this is what you see in result. So success true as in it got the conversion rate and there's a timestamp. Yeah, so this is the most important thing. Base EUR, that is base is euro. So what does this mean? This means that when you enter a text here, or sorry, when you enter a number here, by default, it is a euro. By default, the currency type is euro, but you have to convert it to this, right? Because your from type of currency currently is INR. But if you have to convert this euro to INR first and then that INR to USD. So that's what we're doing here. So if you actually look in the rankings of the value of currencies, euro is way up, it's way above. So what you will do is that now, you know, these three values, right? M, from, cur and to cur. And as of now, you've taken the API and you've requested some results from it. Now, what this base indicates is that by default, whatever value you enter here, it's an EUR. You need to convert it from EUR to your from currency. So since EUR or European euro is much higher than most other currencies, we say that this given value M, that is your number, and you divide it. So again, this is what this looks like a dictionary, right? So we take it in the JSON format and you go to rates. So this is rates, and from rates you want the from cur. So from cur, let's say we wanted INR, right? So INR here. So you get float result, that is this, and rates. So the name of this is rates, and from rates you get from cur. So this from cur is probably INR for you. So you convert the given value that was by default in EUR to INR using this. So that's what you're doing here. You're taking your default value M and then you're converting it to your from currency. Since this API is giving you all currencies in base EUR format, you have to convert it to your from currency format. So essentially, if you see here, we're doing two different conversions. So once you've converted to your from currency format, what you do is you find a rate, and the rate is your two currency values. So suppose your rate is USD. So your rate would be okay, your rate would basically be the USD value that is there. So, I mean, it's a lot to scroll, I guess. Yeah, there. So your rate would be this. So float, again, you do the same thing. Result, rates, but this time you say two currencies. So that would be your rate. So what you've done here is you've converted from European euro to whatever currency is your from currency. That was INR. And over here, you're finding the rate for you to convert it to USD. And then you just take this number and multiply it by the rate. So you'll get your answer. So that's all you have to do here. And over here, one more small thing that you will have to change is that in your combo box previously, we simply had INR and USD. But this time, we've not added all the values here because that would be a little bit of a hassle. I mean, you can add it if you would like. But for now, and for the purpose of our demo, we've just added these few values here. So in your, you have to change your con opt to this. I will again share this in the doc. So previously we just had INR and USD, but now we have a whole bunch of other currencies to convert it to. And this is your new money conv function. So previously you had this, but this time we're calling an API and using that API to convert everything. So this is all that you have to change in your previous code. Did everyone understand how we're using this API? Any doubts? Any doubts? Like anyone has any doubts about what we're doing here? Did you understand that the base is EUR, why we're performing lines 10 and 11 and 12, and what we're basically whatever we're doing in this function? Was that okay with everyone? Anyone has any doubts? All right, if no one has any doubts, maybe you could try this new function, change your conv options to all these other values, and using your API key and the given URL, try this new function and raise your hand if you've gotten it. Madhav, have you gotten it?
Yeah, I'm done.
Oh, you've done it. Wonderful. Would you like to share your screen and show how it works?
Yeah, sure.
All right, I'll just make you presenter. If anyone else has gotten it, you can raise your hand. Yeah, I've made you presenter, Madhav.
Yeah. Okay, is it visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah, so we can choose something like this. And that seems to work. From Singapore to INR. And
really nice. Wonderful. Does it work for anyone else? You can raise your hand if it does. Anyone else? Does anyone have any doubts that you want to ask? Or is anyone stuck anywhere else? Are you stuck with the whole filling the form for the API? Is anyone stuck there? All right, I guess we'll move on to the last step, that is uploading your code onto GitHub. So far, great job. You all have basically coded a currency converter in two different formats, where number one, you've hard coded the conversion, and number two, you've used an API and fetched the data from the API. Now the main and the last thing to do is to basically upload your code onto GitHub. So if you don't have a GitHub GitHub account, all you have to do is just sign in with your email. That's it. Give a password and sign in with your email. So you can go to your profile and this is what it will look like. So now you have to go to this repositories tab and then click on new repository. So maybe we can call it Currency Converter and give a small description. Paste code converts one. So you basically click on new repository, give your repository a name and a small description. So if you're confident with it being public, that is anyone on the internet can view this, you can do that. Or else before you make all the final changes, if you want to, make it private, you can do that as well. And this can be changed once you make the repository. So once you make the repository, you can change it from private to public. And it's always good to add a README file. So a README file basically in GitHub will tell you all about the project in GitHub. So you can just choose these options and click on create repository. So this is something that you will have. This is once you create the repository, this is what you will have. Now, all you have to do is click on add file and click on upload files. And you can say choose your files. So go here. These are the 3 files that I have. Maybe I just want to upload this. So I upload that. And here you can put your commit messages. So I can say added conv using API. And for now, since it's just one file that you're adding, you can commit it directly to the main branch and click on commit changes. So that will take a few minutes. And once it's done, once you click on this, you have your whole file on GitHub. So that's it. And if suppose now this repository is private, right? If suppose I want to make it public. So go to settings, scroll to the very, very bottom, and you can see this thing called change repository visibility. So you can click on change visibility and you have to basically do this and make sure. So you're trying to make it from private to public, right? So click on make public and all this will be given. So you understand and change repository visibility. So it may ask you to type your password in again. Yeah, so now I've made this whole thing public and you can see that here. So you can see that it's written public over here. And you can further modify your README to make everyone understand what it is. And you can maybe, add another file of the first method that you did, that was hard coding the conversion. So that's about it. That was basically the entire currency converter where you followed 2 methods and finally uploaded it onto GitHub. Any questions at all so far? Or is there any place where you're stuck? If you have uploaded it onto GitHub, maybe you can raise your hand. Anyone has any problems uploading it to GitHub? Or any doubts in this whole thing so far? So we've done a lot today. We've built basically a currency converter using 2 different methods. And we've learned what an API is, and we've also used that in our currency converter. And finally, we followed a few simple steps to upload our file onto GitHub. So was anyone able to finish all of these steps? It's okay if you weren't. Excellent, Madhav. Anyone else? Any doubts so far? All right, I'll just be moving on to the last slide that we have, which is a small task. So in today's session, you've learned a lot and you've built your own currency converter using 2 methods. Now the task for you is you can add your own spin to the existing currency converter. So maybe, like it's mentioned, you can add a extra symbol, you can make a different type of converter altogether, you can change a few buttons here and there, you can change the positioning here and there, you can add some color, you can maybe make it more attractive or make it more user friendly and easily accessible. So you add your own spin to this existing currency converter, upload it onto GitHub. So for this, you would have already made a repository, right? So I'm sorry. Yeah, we've already made this repository. So this repository itself, you can add your basically whatever you've added a spin to, you can add that here. And this link, this GitHub link, this link to your repository is something that you must paste it in a Google form that we'll be sharing in the groups. So if you haven't joined the groups already, please do join our groups. I think it's there in the chat. If not, could one of the moderators please resend the group invitations? So if you're not a part of these groups already, do join the groups. We'll be sending a Google form there for you and submit whatever. It could be any small thing. Submit whatever you have done by tomorrow, 11:59. So that's all we have for you today. And yeah, submit the link to the repository. We'll be sharing the slides, the recording, and our codes also with you after this session by tonight. So anyone, that's all we have for today.
I had a question.
Yes.
Like, I say I want to learn Tkinter now. Is that like I saw the documentation online, but then is there a more like a simple way to learn the library?
So you can always use W3 schools and tutorials point. They give you a very nice, concise and easy method for you to read it. But do note that documentation is the one that's always like correct. So finally, it will be better if you actually understand and read from the documentation. But if the way it's formatted and things like that seem a little boring to you and things like that, you can always use W3 schools. You can use tutorials point. And Sunil, do you have anything else to add on to that?
Yeah, there's a course by Free Code Camp. It's a bit long, it's about 5 hours, but maybe you can skip the stuff you don't want and just get to there are chapters there, so maybe you can see what's interesting and watch that. We'll be sending these links later on soon after the event ends, so you can follow them if you want any help or tutorial of sorts.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.